Hello and welcome to my review for the Skate Dance manga. So yeah, I finished the show like 3 days ago, and obviously I said I would read the manga to finish the story and I would do a review. So as with all my review, this first part, which will be quicker, is the non-spoiler, and then there will be a spoiler in the second part. So yeah, very quickly, um, the manga is basically the same as the show. Unexpected, not actually expectedly. Uh, it's very fun. There is some pretty good arc and stuff happening that wasn't adapted, especially the later part of the manga. That's what I read. Um, but yeah, the manga is really good. The art is really good. I was maybe expecting something a bit less compared to the show, but Himeko, for example, is even cuter in the manga, I feel like, at times. And yeah, it's a funny manga, sometimes pretty emotional. Not as much as Gintelman, but yeah, sometimes it gets into some arcs that are pretty emotional. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's hard to say much more without spoiling, so that's about it. I will absolutely recommend the show and the manga. So let's get into the spoiler section. Go away if you're not interested. So obviously the spoiler section is more about if you've seen my reaction. So now I'm just gonna spoil a bit what I've just read from the manga after the anime. So usually I would start again from the beginning of the manga, but in this one, I felt like yes, it probably skipped some chapter, but mostly comedy ones. So I should start around where the show ended. So from what I've read, it was on chapter 160 something. That's where I started. So you see there's like 280 chapter. So yeah, I've read about half of the manga. But since I've seen the first half in the anime, that was fine, So yeah. So let me try to remember. Obviously a ton of comedy chapter which I don't really have anything to say about. The first Seiyus arc that was interesting was Himeko, Boston and Switch going to Himeko's old town and trying to help an old friend of hers. Then she gets kidnapped, and then Boston has to save her. It's very cliched, and it was also very cliched, and with Boston actually punching the bad guy and carrying him. But I really liked it, and Himeko almost confessed at that point, I guess. She finally fully realized how she felt about him. So yeah, that was a really good one. I think there was like one or two other Seiyus arc, but they didn't really mark me. Since I just finished yesterday's Sket Dance, the one that really marked me was the final one, Switch On. Well, it wasn't the final one, it was the second to last one, Switch On, which is, we already had the first part of his backstory on Switch, what happened to his brother. But what we didn't exactly know is that he didn't straight up go to school with the computer and shit. Actually, he became Ikikomori. And so Switch On start with Himeko and Bosun trying to make the Sket Dan, but they need a third member. And yeah, it's a very good arc. I won't really go into detail of everything, you've read it. But some of the moments are just great. There's the classic man-to-man fist punching. There's a lot of great moments. So yeah, this one was maybe my favorite arc of the show. Then we get into the final arc, Last Dance. When you read the title of the chapter, you're like, fuck, I'm gonna cry. So this shitty new principal with some weird ass rule. So Sket Dan has to fight him with basically a lot of the characters that we've encountered. But I mean, it's also about making his son talk, because it doesn't talk. I mean, you've read it, this one was more mixed. I didn't like the idea, but as a final arc, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I mainly cared about the ending, and yeah, it was something, especially when Switch. I think it was the end of one of the chapters. you know, they finally defeated the principal. Things are fun, and the last panel you see Himeko and Bosun in the foreground, and then right in front of in the panel you see a switch, and you see his computer, and you see him turning off his computer, and that's the last panel. And you know what's going to happen in the next one, and it's so freaking good. It's something that was building up since the beginning, more or less. That time when Switch would finally talk, and yeah, next chapter he finally talks, and everyone cries, at least Himeko, Bosun, and even Switch, and that was freaking amazing. Next, I think, yeah, next is the graduation ceremony, which is pretty sad. Switch is actually the one giving the speech. He started off doing his computer voice, but then he actually switched literally to his real voice, and he has an actually pretty great speech about how everyone helped him and shit. It's really great stuff. So then it's basically said that Bosun and Himeko are playing for the same school, and then they get accepted, and you're like, yeah, really cool. But then the twist, Bosun doesn't want to go to school. He has decided what he wants to do, which is basically become the kind of like humanitarian, I think it's how you call it, guy that goes around the world helping people. And frankly, when he said it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Frankly, I didn't think about it before, but that makes all the sense for Bosun, you know. But at the same time, I was pretty sad about it, because that means he's not getting with Himeko right away or something. So yeah, ultimately he says goodbye to everyone, and then at the airport, the classic airport scene, Himeko finally confess, and that's when I think the ending turned a bit to shit, and why supposedly, from what I've read, there was a fair amount of backlash against the author, and I would say it's kind of deserved, because what's the point of making such a cop-out ending? So Himeko confess, and Bosun of course misunderstand, and then Himeko doesn't like try to really push it, and I feel like Saya, for example, when she confessed, she ultimately made him understand what she meant, and Himeko doesn't even get that. That was pretty fucked. So yeah, basically then, yeah, we see like Himeko older. We see ultimately the last shot of the manga is Bosun older, basically proposing his love to someone, you know, and it's a good ending, but at the same time, I can't wash out of my mind the fact that, yeah, I mean, I guess it would have been sad if she confessed, but it still goes, you know. But at the very least, it would have been more conclusive if you actually understood what she meant. Like, I don't know, it wasn't ending. So yeah, it's a mix, the ending. Now, the good news is that afterward, I went on my anime list and I saw a post. Basically, some Indian fan had contacted the author on Twitter, basically being pissed off about the ending, and it's a bit of a bad thing, because some people joined in, and it eventually led to the author deleting his account. But before that, he posted one image, which I'll take as canon. So let me show you, if you haven't seen it. So this is it. So this is obviously them grown up, and if there's one thing you can't notice, it's that. Yep. That's fucking great. I mean, I would have rather had it in an actual manga chapter, you know. But this is fine too, you know. But still, the actual ending of the manga is a mix. The idea of Bosun becoming like a guy that travels around the world helping people makes all the sense for me. But the fact that there was no real conclusion with Himeko in the manga is a bit pissing me off. And I guess I forgot to mention, Switch ended up with Momoka. I didn't really think it was going to go anywhere when it was first started, that ship, I guess. Personally, I really liked Switch and Ghost Girl, but I wasn't surprised it never went anywhere. And I was also always expecting the childhood friend from his backstory to come back, mainly because, you know, Switch got through some pretty good arc, you know, to, I guess, overcome his trauma and shit, but never with that childhood friend, you know. I mean, I feel like that would be something he regretted a lot, you know. He actually liked her, and the way they went the separate way was pretty shit. So yeah, I was expecting her to come back and possibly end up with him, but no, Momoka. I don't dislike that at all. I think that's pretty nice. Also, Chu Sensei and Onisan as a kid, have a kid. That's something that was kind of obvious, but a very nice thing. Yeah, I mean, I was, despite what I just said about the ending being a bit disappointing in some way, I was still fairly emotional the last 3-4 chapters, you know. I didn't exactly cry, but you know, you're like reading the manga and you're like just sighing and sighing again, you know, taking a break between each page. So yeah, it was satisfying to an extent. I don't think it was perfect. Now, what, you know, as a fan I can hope is that when the Sket Dance come back, Sket Dance adult arc, because one of the things Boston said is that he's gonna go around the world helping people to kind of grow as a person and shit. And ultimately, of course, he's gonna come back to Japan. And frankly, if the author, which I need to get his name because I really respect the guy now, he's got To It With Me, Sket Dance, and Kanatan Orchestra. If the author, Shinohara Kenta, ever wants to make more Sket Dance, which I hope he does, you know, what I would hope is basically like they reunite as adults and they make an actual agency, kind of like the Yorozuya from Gintama, an actual like agency of helping people, and we get a manga of them as adult doing the Sket Dance thing again. I think that would be a great thing to do at some point, you know. At least that's what I would like to see. Who knows if something like that would ever happen. But yeah, all that to say that Sket Dance, the manga, like the anime, are great. I gave them both 8 out of 10. A very fun ride. Imeko was definitely the best thing about it for me. What a waifu. Yeah, I think that's about it. I talked more than I was expecting, but I definitely really enjoyed it. So that's it. That's my review for the manga Sket Dance. Thanks for watching this review. Thanks for watching if you watched the reaction. And see you next time with something else.